Hello BookTube, welcome to Lizzie Faye Loves Books. I'm Elizabeth, and today is October 7th, 2017, so it's day 7 of Veto and the Cozy-a-thon. Well, this morning I accomplished my Cozy-a-thon challenge because the 7th challenge was to read a chapter first thing in the morning. Well, I did actually put the bacon in the frying pan for my husband to get his breakfast going, and then I sat down because it usually takes the first batch a little while to heat up and everything, and so I got most of the first chapter read even before I had to go flip it, and then I finished up that chapter fairly quickly, and then I wasn't feeling 100%. I've kind of got some toothache stuff happening and sore throat and all that stuff, so I just took it easy most of the morning and ended up reading and napping on and off. It was a nice Saturday around here. Now it is clouded up and it's about to start to rain, but we've had a good day, and I've been able to get a few things done around the house. So what I'd like to do for today's video is kind of a Saturday shelfie, because these books are going on my shelf, but it's also kind of a book haul because I have just acquired these books over the summer and you haven't seen them yet, and I'm going to do a kind of a showcase of Eugenia Price books. Now, Eugenia Price was a well-known Christian author. She died in the 90s, and when I first heard of her from my mother, because my mother read some Eugenia Price books and spoke very highly of her writing, and I believe what she read was mostly her fiction books. She has quite a lot of fiction trilogies and series and quite a lot of Christian nonfiction books. Now, when I went to Goodreads to look up her bio and just kind of read a little bit about her, there was only one paragraph, and it sort of ended on a note that sounded like she was an atheist. And I knew almost for certain that she was not, because I knew that she had written a lot of Christian books. In fact, in the huge windfall of books that we received at the beginning of the summer, there was a pretty large quantity of Eugenia Price books, both fiction and non. And so I did a little further searching. I went to Wikipedia and I think another site, and I discovered the paragraph that had been used on Goodreads, but in addition to that, there were several more paragraphs about her life and how she had converted to Christianity and become a very prolific Christian author, and just a lot of other things. So I contacted Jen from Today in Jen's Library, who is a Goodreads librarian, and I asked her if she would please add to the bio. So she was able to go in. I gave her the information about where I had found it, and she was able to go in and copy and paste and go ahead and put all of that bio that was from the other source onto the Goodreads bio for Eugenia Price. So thank you, Jen, so much for that. And now it more accurately describes her writing life, because while she was an atheist as a young person, like a college student, she did spend, I believe, most of her life as a Christian and wrote a lot of Christian books. So I have written down all of her series books because I had to, just to keep them straight. And then I'm going to also show you a few of her nonfiction books that we kept to put on eBay, because there's some really nice older editions, and I just thought, as long as I'm going to show you Eugenia Price books, I would show you the fiction books that I'm keeping and then the nonfiction books that we're going to be offering on our eBay store. And if you are interested in taking a look at those, then I will do my best to remember to put that in the description. If you are watching this video and it's not there, just send me a comment and say, hey, what about the Eugenia Price, or what about the eBay store? And I will, I'll put a link to that in the description. All right. So there were at least 4 series, some were trilogies, that she published. Then the very last fiction book that she published, or I guess the very last book she published, according to what I've read, it was meant to be the beginning of a series, but she died before she could write anymore. So now I don't know the order of when these were published. I don't know if she wrote one series and finished it and then started another. I'm not really sure. But there are 4 series, and I believe I have at least, no, I have all 4 of the series. Now, in this windfall of books that we got, there were multiple copies of some of the same Eugenia Price books in a variety of conditions. I donated some of the ones that were not in great shape, and some of the ones I put in our eBay stuff to sell. And then I didn't necessarily keep the best copy of everything for me. I really put the better copies in the eBay box because we could, you know, probably sell those for a little bit more. I'm not really wanting to keep these as a collection necessarily. I just wanted to read them. So I went ahead and kept one of each. Now, I did have a couple that were on my shelf already, and I've put them in the box too so that I can show you the whole collection. So to my knowledge, this is all of Eugenia Price's fiction collection. So the first series I want to tell you about is the Savannah Quartet. And there's 4, obviously it's a quartet. The first in that is Savannah. And let me, just to give you an idea, this says that it was published, this just has a copyright of 1983. So this is one of the later ones, not, I don't believe, one of the earliest. Then the next book, I hope I have these in the right order. The next one is To See Your Face Again. And I don't know anything about the synopsis of any of these. I am just going in blind, and I'm going to show them to you. The next one, the third one, Before the Darkness Falls. And then this last one is quite a chunker. It is Stranger in Savannah. All right, then the next one is the St. Simons Trilogy. Now, she lived a good portion of her life in St. Simons. In fact, she has a memoir of her time there. And one of these books I had already, and that is Lighthouse. I had this on my shelf already. Then the next one is New Moon Rising. And then I believe I had a couple of different choices of different editions in all the books that we had. And I went ahead and kept The Beloved Invader. I kept this edition because it matched my Lighthouse edition. And these are from the Crossings book club. So these are actually book club editions, but I like them. Now, the interesting thing about this, I noticed that they are numbered. They're not numbered in the order that they were published. So I'm wondering if they're numbered chronologically, but she wrote them out of order. So Lighthouse, for instance, says that it was originally published in, no. It was originally published in I'm sorry, I'm not showing you the right one. Sorry, Emily was just about to walk in front of the camera. Lighthouse was published in 1971. Then what's labeled as Book 2, New Moon Rising, was published in 1969. And then what's labeled as Book 3, The Beloved Invader, was published in 1965. And it is the one that I have heard, I remember my mother talking about this one. And I think this is the one that I listened to on audio a long time ago. So, as I recall, it may be, no, you know what? I remember my mom talking about this one, but this is not the one that I listened to on audio. So I'm not really sure what order I'm going to read them in. I tend to read things in publication order, so that's more than likely what I will do. Now, the next one I have in paperback, and it's the Florida Trilogy. I already had the first one, which is Maria. Now, if you ever go on the tour in St. Augustine, Florida, which is the oldest city in the United States, there is the oldest house in St. Augustine, and they will tell you on that tour that Eugenia Price wrote a book that is set in that house, and this is it, Maria. Then the next book, which actually is older, but, sorry, my little pillow's coming down. Again, these were not published in the right order. This one, Maria, it says, was published in 77. Don Juan McQueen was published in 74, but it is labeled as Book 2. And then the third book is Margaret's Story, and it was published in 1980. And then the last one is the Georgia Trilogy, which is actually the newest trilogy. This one, I believe, is the one that I listened to on audio, and I think I listened to an abridged version, but it's called Bright Captivity, and I want to say that part of it takes place on a ship. Then the next one, published in 93, is Where Shadows Go. And the third one is Beauty from Ashes. Now, the last book that I mentioned that was published in 1997, just before her death, is called The Waiting Time, and it was meant to be the beginning of another series, but this was all that she got written before she passed away. So those are the fiction books, and that is my complete collection of the Eugenia Price fiction books. Now, I'll show you just a few others that we're going to put on eBay. The first one here is fiction, and then the rest are nonfiction. We have this really nice older copy of The Beloved Invader, and I looked it up earlier. This is the 5th printing of the first edition was 1965, and so this is still labeled 1965, but it says it's the 5th printing. Then the rest of these are nonfiction. This one says it is the 2nd edition, but it is a copyright of 1957, and it is called Share My Pleasant Stones. This one, I don't know, this one didn't have a dust jacket. I don't know if it ever had one or not, so it's the least pretty of all of them. And it's called Find Out for Yourself. The subtitle, Young People Can Discover Their Own Answers. And I guess she's thinking of that as, you know, from her own experience, because as a young person, she was a self-proclaimed atheist, and then she studied and discovered her own answers for herself and became a Christian. This is copyrighted 1963. And 3 more. We have Early Will I Seek Thee, Journal of a Heart That Longed and Found. So again, this is probably about her journey in finding Christianity. And it was published in, looks like in the 50s, 1956, looks like. This one is called Make Love Your Aim. And it is from 1967. And then one more. This is the St. Simons Trilogy, or no, the St. Simons Memoir that I talked about. And it, I believe, is from the 80s. No, 1978. So those are the older ones and the nonfiction books that we'll put on our eBay store. I believe our eBay store is called MeadowsMart, and I will like I said, I'll do my best to leave a link down below. And we also have some copies of, we have multiple copies of some of these fiction books that will be going in our eBay store as well. So if you're interested in those, let me know, because I don't think they're listed yet. We have quite a lot of books from that big haul of books, and it's just going to take some time to get them all listed. So if there's any in particular that you're interested in, let me know, and I will tell my husband to be sure and get those up there so that we can get them out to you. So that's all I have for this video. I hope you're having a great day. Read a good book, and God bless you.